Well, I really appreciate you guys all having me. I don't know what everybody's background is, but I'm going to make some assumptions that um, everybody is pursuing some sort of an engineering degree and has some sort of a passion for building things, and that's why they're involved in the SAE team and the SAE organization. I wanted to start today's talk just by saying that I was once where you are. For me, it was about 30 years ago, and I was studying mechanical engineering at Oakland University in Rochester Hills, Michigan. At that time, they were building the Chrysler Technology Center just down the street from the school. I was involved with the Society of Manufacturing Engineers, and we did have an SAE team, and we spent a lot of time, doing crazy things, working in shops and in labs and testing things that maybe would work or maybe wouldn't work. And by doing things, we learned a lot. I can tell you that throughout my career, I have made it a habit to go out and visit as many manufacturing facilities as I possibly could, and got to see a lot of designs for machines, manufacturing equipment, manufacturing lines, components, etc. The more that I exposed myself to engineering related things, the more curious I became. And at this point in your career, hopefully you're learning how to ask a lot of questions, and maybe you don't have a lot of answers, but having an inquisitive mind is a huge part of becoming a successful engineer. And I think that the more you can expose yourself to being able to participate in things like SAE, the better off you're going to be to develop yourself into a person that is going to be desirable to have on a team, because the more you see, the more you know. So I commend all of you for being here today to listen to me, and for the work that you're doing on your SAE team. So I sent something back to Matt saying that I wanted to have a conversation today about the 3 most important decisions. And these are things that, as I get older and get further developed in my career, they're the decisions that have been most impactful, I think, in my life. And whether they're related directly to engineering or not, I think that they're important to each of us as individuals. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. I won't get into a lot of detail, but just I want to share a little bit what's on my mind. And I guess I look at this as if I'm talking to my younger self. As I mentioned earlier, I was once where you are at today. So if I was going to look back and talk to my younger self, and give myself some advice, this is one of the things that I would want to know about, is the 3 most important decisions. So I'm going to start out with what I think is the most important decision, and at the end of this, I'll fire off a document that I created that more clearly, word for word, spells out what I'm saying today. So if somebody misses it, or you want to go back and review notes from the meeting, you'll have that. Some of the things on that document I might not talk about today, but I'll give you all my thoughts. And some of the recommended reading will be on there as well, if you care to dig a little bit deeper to some of the thoughts I'm sharing with you right now. So the first thing, the first most important and most impactful decision to make is the decision to, as Socrates said, know thyself. And so understanding what you want, right now at this part of your career, understanding who you are, understanding what you believe in, understanding what motivates you, um, understanding what you would die for. Those are really important things as you start out in life, and they may change a little bit over time, but you were raised with certain values. You've been mentored by certain people. You've maybe adopted some of those values that they had, and maybe you've said, no, that's not going to be one of my values or one of the things I really care about. But knowing yourself, and knowing yourself to the point that when you go out to look for your first job out of college, that you can seek out a mentor that is going to share similar beliefs, similar values, is really critical and really important. I can share with you that my very first job in engineering was actually after my junior year of high school, and I was rebuilding steam locomotives in a machine shop out in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. I'm originally from Michigan, and I drove out there to Iowa, and I lived with the owner of the shop, and we had huge machine tools, big lathes, big mills, and we were building steam locomotives for places like the Ozark Zoo and Michael Jackson's Neverland and Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio, and we were building live steam locomotives. And getting a chance to work with these old engineers that maybe had retired from Caterpillar in Peoria, Illinois, and getting to dig into design work with them was something that was really, really interesting and influential in my life. But I can tell you that that first job in a machine shop doing drafting on a board prior to learning CAD, or maybe CAD didn't even exist back then. It kind of set me up for the rest of my career. Starting out in your very first job, choosing that first mentor, and choosing that industry is going to start to set the foundation for the rest of your career. So as you're participating in SAE, maybe you have an interest in automotive, maybe you have an interest in manufacturing. There's certain things that you should start to develop and say, I really like this, I need to learn more. There's a lot of questions right now that you probably don't even know the right questions to ask about certain occupations and certain places that you can go. Stephen Covey writes in his book of The 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, he writes to begin with the end in mind. And I want to encourage you to start developing what the end in mind is in your life right now as you look at your career in an engineering field. Whether you're going to work for a large company or you're going to work for a small company, who do you want your mentor to be? What kind of personality traits do you want to have? It's going to be easy for you, I think, to get your degree and go out and find a job. But I would encourage you not to just find a job. Don't just get a job so that you can start paying off student loans or, buy your next favorite car or whatever it is. Really look for somebody that you can work under that's going to be a mentor, that is going to be able to encourage you in your career and that you can continue your education in. When you graduate, you're going to have a piece of paper from the school. You're going to have some years of experience. The fact that maybe you've had a co-op, maybe you've had some work experience and you've already started to lay that foundation is going to be critical to be able to present that to a human resources manager and say, hey, I already have experience in this field. And if it relates to what you really want in the future, it's all the best. I can tell you that when I started out in Iowa working on steam locomotives for that summer after my junior year of high school, I didn't get paid. I got room and board, and I loved every minute of it, but I wasn't doing it for a wage. I was doing it for experience. And to this day, 30 years later, that experience is still on my resume. And, you know, it's something that um, laid this foundation for this amazing career that I've had um, through many different jobs and many different things. I'm maybe not a traditional person when it comes to, you know, I didn't go out and have a job and, you know, stick with that job forever. I typically would have a job until I seemingly learned as much as I could at that particular organization. And then I was kind of like ADD, I guess. And I would say, oh, I want to go learn this. And then I would change jobs and go learn something else. Um, and over the years, that cumulative experience continues to push my career further and further along. So the first thing that I talked about, the first most important decision, is to know yourself. Know what you want. Start to develop that vision for your future and what it is that you really want to get out of your engineering degree, and start to understand what that destination might be. Even if the destination is only, you know, the next 3 or 4 steps, you know, you don't have to figure 10 steps out ahead, because it might change once you get to the 3rd step in your career. Um, but start to develop that vision right now, and be selective when you go out into the career field and you start looking for that first job. The second thing, once you know yourself and you know maybe what you want for a career, maybe what you want, you know, as far as where you're going to live or your family, or, you know, if you're what your focus is going to be in life. The second most important thing is choosing that partner, whether it's a business partner or a spouse. I can tell you that the most influential part of my life that has actually impacted every single part of my life was the decision to, for me, it happened to be marry the woman that I married. Choosing that partner, that spouse, it has the biggest impact on every decision I make. It has the biggest impact on my health, my mental health, my physical health, my emotional well-being, where I live, what I wear, what I drive. You know, maybe some of you are thinking that you're going to be single forever. Maybe some of you, you know, will have some sort of domestic partner. But choosing that person that is going to be an encouragement to your life, I talk about that even when I'm interviewing people about, you know, trying to keep their, you know, whatever drama in life is happening, you know, leave it at the door when they come to work. And so that choice of who you're going to surround yourself with, whether it's a domestic partner, a business partner, the friends that you hang out with, always make sure that there's people that are in your group that are smarter than you, that are going to encourage you and encourage you to do healthy things and to grow. And that kind of leads me into the third most important decision is making the choice to continue to pursue your education. I live in a world of continuous improvement. I've studied lean manufacturing at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. I've taken all kinds of classes and seminars and read books on continuous improvement. And it's not just on the shop floor, it's something that can be applied to every aspect of your life. And when we talk about continuously improving, it really boils down to continuous education and learning more and more and more. A lot of times I will go in and do some consulting with a company, and I will ask people about their education, and a lot of folks will say, oh, you know, I got my college degree from here, or I got my high school education from here. And it's almost like their education stopped at one point and they didn't pursue anything else. And it's really important, I think, even more so today, because technology is changing ever so quickly, that you have a mindset to continue education. Whatever job you have, the more you do on your own time to learn about the job, the technology, what people are talking about on forums, whether it's about, a new manufacturing concept or a design concept, or a quality of a component that you may be designing. The idea is that you continue to learn and continue to grow yourself, continue to challenge yourself. There's always going to be problems to solve, and the more knowledgeable you can be about that specific problem, the more in demand that you're going to be. I look at it in a way of adding value. When you're working for a company, you need to be adding value. I tell people all the time that I don't give people jobs. In a human resources role, a lot of people are looking for jobs, and I don't give people jobs. I give people opportunities. And as long as a candidate or an employee eventually sees the job as an opportunity, the opportunity exists. But when the person no longer sees the job as an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to contribute, and that opportunity just becomes a job, and they're punching a clock, they're collecting a paycheck, and they're really not passionate and motivated by the opportunity to work, then typically the opportunity goes away. And I tell people that all the time. I said, if you want to be here, I want you here. But as soon as you don't want to be here, I don't want you here. And that kind of goes back to the very first point, is the more you know yourself, the more that you can align yourself with the right opportunity and the right mentor that is going to encourage you, motivate you, teach you, educate you, train you, and have your back in your career of choice. And if you need help figuring out what it is you want to do, I can tell you that the best help there is to get out there and experience things. I don't know if your SAE team ever has a chance to line up tours of facilities where you can go in and you can tour a manufacturing plant. You can talk to different engineers at different positions. Growing up, going to school in the Detroit area, I had lots of opportunities to visit the Chrysler Tech Center, to visit Ford Romeo engine plant, to go to the bulk mail center down in Detroit for the post office, to go to companies like Focus Hope, which was training folks to run CNC equipment at the time. Every opportunity that we had to walk into a foundry or a production facility, you took that opportunity and you organized a field trip and you went out there and did it. Going into Fanuc Robotics and looking at all the industrial automation. These are all things that are going to help you to kind of gauge what it is that you desire to learn more about, as you look for that first opportunity in your career. Here at VAC Motorsports, where I currently am, we do a lot of different things. It's all related to BMW automobiles. So we have CNC machining, we build race cars, we manufacture, solutions for, engineering problems that we find in the BMW engines. We build engines for people, and we do a lot of different things. Some of the young engineers here are reverse engineering components and laser scanning, doing laser 3D scanning on things so that we can, develop solid models and then program machines to cut parts. Every industry is going to have things that you might gravitate towards, but figuring out that one thing that you want to do where you're going to be able to add value to that particular company or that particular industry, at the end of the day, that's what is going to keep you employed, is as you add value. It's always great if you can learn. It's really super if you have a passion for what you're doing, but understanding yourself and seeking that opportunity is going to be critical to your success. So I guess I'd like to take some time in the document that I'm going to send everybody, I'll give everybody kind of a little foreshadowing, I guess, of what that is. There's a lot of things that I talk about in there that have to do with additional resources for learning more, some books that I've read that have been really impactful in my life. And I'm throwing that out there, as a, if you want to get some further understanding, and I'm going to develop some more ideas in that document, and I'll be able to send that out probably later on today. But one of the things that I talk about is money, and I talk about money as a tool. So, you're right now, you're in college, maybe you're on a scholarship, maybe you're spending money, maybe you're borrowing money to go to school, maybe your parents have saved money, and you're working on that money to get your education. At the end of the day, we all end up going to work and getting a job to earn a living, to provide for ourselves, to provide for our families, to buy the things that we feel that we need, to buy some things that we want. And so some of the things that I present in this document are going to be related to money, and some of the most impactful things that I've learned in my life about money, about how to create wealth, about how to spend money, how to earn money. It's a topic that, if you like math, and I'm assuming that if you're engineers, you like math, there's a lot of things that I've learned over a 30-year career that I've learned things on how to handle money. And some of them I've learned late in my career that I wish I would have learned at a young age. So I have a son that's 28, and I've taught him some of these things, and he is way further ahead of me than when I was in even my early 40s, just because he knows a few of these things that I've taught him. I've got a daughter that's 19, and she's also utilizing some of these things that I've taught her. So you might have come here today, wanted to learn more about engineering and opportunities and things like that. I know maybe this is a little bit off topic from hardcore engineering, and maybe sharing some formulas and things with you, but it's real life stuff. And I think that we struggle in this digital age. A lot of times I think that there's this battle that's taking place between education and entertainment. It's really easy to jump on your phone and look at the latest Instagram post, or check out what everybody's saying on Facebook, and a lot of that has to do with entertainment. And I think our time is often, there's this war going on between our time for entertainment versus our time for education. So I would encourage each of you to work on balancing that time. And if you can spend equal amounts of time doing both, entertaining and unwinding, but then that same amount of time, make sure you're putting it into your education and learning more and more, so that you can add more and more value to your future employer and to your career. Those are important things. And as you read through this document I'll send out, and you might have questions about different financial things, feel free to reach out to me. Use me as a resource. I mentor a lot of people. I have young engineers all over the United States. They call me and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Have you ever done this? Have you ever done that? Life is really about relationships, and the more you can have solid relationships with others and build your team, surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, that are going to challenge you and encourage you, then the more you're going to get out of life in general. And don't ever not take advantage of the opportunity to stop and help somebody out and encourage somebody in their career. Building a career is a lot of work, and you can all expect to work hard. I've worked hard my whole career, but I've also played hard, and it's been a very rewarding career. I can't imagine a career in any other field other than engineering, and it's taken me all over the world, and and I've met many, many wonderful people. So if I can be of an encouragement or a resource based on anything in our conversation today, or anything in your future, I try to make myself available. My whole mantra in life is to add value, and whether it's to add value to a company or add value to an individual, I feel like that's my purpose, and that's why I'm here. And so I really appreciate the time today that you've given me to talk. And I hope that this conversation has added some sort of value in your life, and maybe gotten you to think about a few things as you pursue your career, as you continue your education, and participate in your SAE team. I wish you all the best. If you have any questions, I guess now I'd like to open it up for anybody that might have questions. And Matt, I don't know how you'll do that, but I'll give you back the floor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. If you wanted to create that document later and just send it to me, I can certainly disperse it to our team. And we also have a website I can throw it up on as well. But yes, if anyone has any questions for Chris, feel free to unmute yourself and you could ask directly. I guess I could start with a question. First off, I'm very interested to see that financial advice that you are so graciously willing to share. Given that you're keeping it private to your family, I'm interested to see what tips you may have. But I guess what ultimately led you to your current job? And you had mentioned that you seem to be, or I guess when you were younger, you seem to have jumped job to job, just trying to gain as much experience as you could. What made you ultimately decide to stick with your job that you currently have?
So I guess right now, at this point in my career, my family time, my time is more important to me than money, or than, I guess, climbing the corporate ladder. So my current job allows me freedom of time. I have a very flexible schedule. I'm really good friends with the owner of the company. He really values relationships with people, and he's a very grateful person. He's very, I guess he's a guy that tends to be very giving, and I like to surround myself with people like that give people the benefit of the doubt, that like to develop people. There's a great program here at VAC for young engineers that want to do an internship. So I would recommend anybody that, is out there that might be looking for an internship for a semester to, fire off a resume to me. You can get my email address from Matt. It's really a learning environment. And I like BMW cars. Building BMW race cars is kind of sexy, and so that's a fun part about this aspect of my life right now. But I do some consulting, and I'll be down in Alabama next Wednesday. I'll be out in Wisconsin the following week. I do a lot of traveling right now, so being here at VAC, in the capacity that I'm here, allows me to be able to have the flexibility to pursue other things. So I guess that's what I really like about this particular, time in my career. Prior to this, I had been in the defense industry for 4.5 years. I was a vice president of operations for a company. It's very demanding. It's not when you're managing a lot of people in a technical capacity, especially, you put in a lot of hours. You're there before everybody else is there, and in the morning, and you're there later than everybody else is there at the end of the day. And it can be a lot for a family, and it's hard sometimes to have balance. It's probably the thing I've struggled with most throughout my career, is balancing that work family life, because I was always so driven to learn more and to grow more. And so I guess it's not that I was burnt out necessarily, but it was just that I had this paradigm shift in my thinking. And one of the things was I learned some things about finances that I was able to develop some financial strategies to produce some passive income that said, hey, you don't have to work so hard to earn a couple $100,000 a year. You can back off on how hard you're working and let your money work for you and work smarter, not harder, kind of thing. And I still work equally as hard, but I do things that I really love to do and I'm more passionate about than maybe that I have at other times in my career.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was really great. I guess a follow-up question to something you had hit on in your answer there. You had said that you do some consulting, given your flexible schedule at VAC. I've had a few mentors in the past who have had, I guess, quote unquote, side hustles themselves. And it seems to be, I guess, kind of popular in the engineering world to like have sort of a side hustle in consulting and a part to full-time job as well. Is that something you would recommend, or any tips on maybe how to achieve something in that direction?
Sure. Um, Throughout my career, I've always had a side hustle. I've always had something I was going to do on the side, whether it was, something that I was just personally interested in, or, something where I could make, decent money at. Um, Getting involved in consulting as an engineer is really kind of easy to do. Um, you have to become somewhat of an expert in something. And, so once again, going back to know yourself, know where your passions lie, and pick something to be really good at. Um, in the document I'll be sending out, there'll be a little quote in there, and I won't say it exactly the way it is, but it says basically, consider the postage stamp whose usefulness is determined by sticking with something until it achieves its goal. I really hacked that up, I'm sure, but I'll give you the exact quote. But the point is that if you stick with something and you become an expert, even in something small, something maybe you spend 2 years learning how to do 3D scanning or 3D printing or something like that. Maybe you get involved in additive manufacturing, and you can promote yourself using LinkedIn, using social media as an expert in, how to do something like that, or, just with 2 years of knowledge in something very specific can be more than what somebody has that is just getting started. And you can go help that person that's just getting started. And in helping others and teaching what you actually become smarter and you actually become better. And they'll ask you questions that you have to research. And it's always an interesting phenomenon when you teach something, how it makes you better. And I would highly encourage that for anybody that has an interest in putting yourself out there and seeing what can come up with it. Consulting work is typically more lucrative than what your hourly rate is for your day job. I can tell you that do a little bit of research online, you'll find out that as a consultant, you don't have steady work, but when you do have work, it can be 2, 3, 4 times what your daily job would be as an hourly rate. And so that makes some decent money to put aside, to invest, and then put that money to work for you.
Yeah, that's really great. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions they want to ask Chris?
Yeah, I have a question. So Chris, you mentioned balancing education and entertainment. I myself try to seek out things, whether it's like podcasts, books, YouTube videos that include both. I was just wondering if you have any advice for combining those two things.
Yeah, sure. We all all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So, or maybe makes Jackie a dull girl. The point is that anytime you need to unwind, it's great to um, do something that doesn't require a lot of heavy lifting, especially in an engineering career. There can be lots of times where there's pressures and there's different things that weigh on you. You've got projects and deadlines and stuff. Sometimes you just need to unplug and relax. And so every personality is going to be different. One thing I do a lot of, especially in an HR role, is I study personalities. There's a great website out there called 16personalities.com, and you can go there, you can take a personality test, and it is wicked scary how accurate some of these results are. And you read about your personality and you're like, oh my goodness, how could I just answer 30 minutes worth of questions and they have me pegged as to exactly what my personality is, and they know all this stuff about me based on my personality. It's a great tool for human resources. It's a great way to explain yourself and know what your strengths and weaknesses are, going into a job interview or looking for a mentor. So going back to your question about entertainment and education and how to kind of balance the two of those, I guess part of my entertainment for me has become, I guess, kind of like the Huckleberry Finn, make it a game, make the job a game. I don't know if you guys remember reading Huckleberry Finn or Tom Sawyer or whatever it was, and painting a fence and making it a challenge, and getting all of his friends to help him paint the fence. And but if you can make your entertainment something that you can learn from, my entertainment, my hobby, one of my hobbies is investing in real estate. And from a mathematical standpoint, this is getting more into the document I'm going to send out, but how do I take a dollar and leverage it so that it can make $10? How do I do these things? And so part of my education isn't watching the greatest fails of all time on YouTube, but like you mentioned, a podcast or things like that. I have a really hard time sometimes with podcasts because it seems like there's a lot of talking and not a lot of meat. And I tend to be this lean manufacturing efficiency expert, and I just want to get right to the give me the meat. I want the meat. I don't want all the fluff. Just give me the meat. And so I try to find things that really give me a lot of good insight without a lot of wasted words and wasted breath. So if you can find that balance, something that you can, that's relaxing but also educating at the same time, I think that's great. Maybe some of these books will give you some ideas. That we're just reading a book or listening. I do a lot of Audible books where I can drive and listen at the same time. To me, that's relaxing. Maybe it's not for everybody, but once again, going back to your personality, some people get recharged by being alone. Some people get recharged by being around a group of people. The difference between an introvert and an extrovert. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, so it's kind of hard to point you in the exact right direction. But if you have further questions on that, I'd be happy to take that offline and tailor an answer specific to your personality.
No, that was a great answer. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Awesome. Any other questions for Chris?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I guess for me, one of the things based on like my education so far that I've realized I really enjoy is how hands-on my work has really been so far. But based on what I've heard and like what I've heard from some people or mentors that I've had previously is engineers and like engineering work isn't as hands-on later on in life. So I wanted to get your opinion based on your experiences and like where have you been, because I know you've done a lot of manufacturing, and that's one of the things that I really enjoy doing is the ability to go between design and manufacturing. Have you noticed to be a divide out in the field, or is that different compared to your experience?
It's a great question. I think that for me, I've had a lot of opportunities to be hands-on throughout my engineering career. Some of it in the work situation during my employment. I've gotten the opportunity to design something and then go out and install it and then see it work. And I've had a lot of satisfaction throughout my career being able to do that, whether it was designing a fixture or designing a process and then going out and walking through the process. The hands-on, I guess, I see that more in manufacturing than anything else. When you get into design and, if you were strictly a design engineer, you might not have as much hands-on. You're just going to be spending a lot of time behind a tube. And I've had those jobs in the past where, you sit at the tube for 8 hours a day, and you're drawing lines and doing design work and calculating different things related to whatever it is you're designing. But when you get into manufacturing, there tends to be more troubleshooting, going out on the line and, doing some industrial engineering, maybe doing some cycle time testing. Probably most prevalent even within manufacturing is anytime you get a chance to do anything in lean manufacturing, where you're trying to cut waste out of a process or eliminate time out of an assembly process. Lean manufacturing has a lot of tools in there, and they tend to be very hands-on, where you're out on the floor and you're interacting with, maybe workers on a line, and you're trying to solve problems. Just by way of example, I was contracted one time for a project to install it was an ABB industrial robot in a big foundry operation. And I walked in as a contract engineer, and I walked out on the shop floor. It was a union shop, and there were 25 of these big machines, and one of them had a robot standing in front of them, and the other 24 had a union worker standing in front of them. And I introduced myself as the engineer that was there to get the robot working, and you can imagine that I wasn't really well liked at first, because this robot was going to take all these guys' jobs. And so I went up to the one guy, and he said, "You're going to try to get that robot running? It's been sitting there for 3 years and nobody's gotten it running." And I said, "Yeah, I can. That's really wild. It must be a really complicated process. Can you show me? Can I watch you? Can I see what you do?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." So I watched him for a while. I asked him some questions. I said, "How come you think that robot isn't going to work?" And he went through, and he'd been thinking about it for 3 years. And he had 19 different reasons why that robot wasn't going to work. I wrote down those 19 reasons. And as an engineer, I set about to solve those 19 problems. And I had 7 days to present to the owners exactly what it was going to take to make that robot work. So I solved all those 19 issues. I pulled that floor worker, the union employee, into my meeting and said, "This guy right here, he actually already solved all this. He knows all the things that are wrong. All I did is take his notes and used that to develop my process, and we're going to tackle this thing together, and we're going to make it work." And 5 months later, we'd torn down everything that had already been set up, realigned everything, developed new machines, and put that thing together and had it functioning. But it wasn't something that I did on my own. I used the resource that was available that wasn't really keen on me being there in the first place, but because I gave him credit, because I worked with him, we were able to solve a problem rather quickly that had just been a boat anchor for 3 years sitting in front of that machine. So being involved in manufacturing affords you some of those opportunities, But once again, life is about relationships. So as you build relationships with people, don't ever discount that uneducated factory worker that is standing in front of that machine, trying to do the best he can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Any other questions?
I got one for you.
Sure.
What, in all the fields and industries that you've worked in, which would you say you've gotten the most educational benefit out of?
Wow, that's tough, Matt. The most educational benefit. Well, I can tell you that no matter where you go, you're always going to get out of it what you put into it. That's just a fact. So the more curious you are, the more you want to learn, the more questions you ask, the more you're ultimately going to learn. Probably the robotics industry was the biggest learning experience. When I was integrating FANUC robots, it was in the Detroit area. We did, from a manufacturing standpoint, we built robotic systems for just about everything. So we built welding cells, we built water jet cutting cells, we built material handling cells, we did plasma, laser. We were working with all different kinds of equipment. We did glue dispensing, and every one of those manufacturing process took you to a different assembly line for a different product. We did routing cells for Sea-Ray boats, water jet cutting for Sea-Doo jet skis. We did material handling for Hayes aluminum wheels, and we did dispensing systems for American Sunroof Company. When you have exposure to building an assembly line and doing industrial automation, it opens up your world to a lot of different possibilities. We integrated robots with machine tools that were picking up, raw pieces of aluminum, putting in a machine, and then pulling out the finished pieces. So you got to see a lot of different manufacturing processes. I guess second to that would probably have been in the foundry industry, and just digging into all the different metallurgical characteristics, understanding the pouring and the melting cycles, and then the environmental impact of what was going on in the foundry. That was really interesting. Metallurgy is something that still blows my mind, just all the details and material selection and grain size and understanding the strengths of materials and things like that. So I'd say automation was huge. That was a big part of my life for a long time. I 20 plus years in automotive robotics, and that was a big learning experience there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you so much again, Chris, for your time. I've certainly learned a lot and gained a lot from this, and very much looking forward to the document. Again, I can disperse that to everybody. Also, I recorded this meeting. Is it okay if I post it on our website for people who weren't able to attend?
Sure, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for your time. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we convene here?
No, just I'll share that document. It'll have some contact information on it. Feel free to use your resources, and don't be afraid to try to hook up with me on LinkedIn. You know, I've got a lot of contacts out there. So when it comes time for you to be looking for jobs and things like that, I know a lot of people that are in ownership positions and things like that are always looking for talented folks that have some experience. And the fact that you're in your SAE team is really valuable to a lot of hiring managers. So don't be a stranger.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Chris. And thank
Thank
you
you for
for
your
everyone
time.
who was able to attend. Thank you for your
Thank you,
time.
everybody. Take care.